1984 BMW R65. I got it about a week ago. It was given to me by a friend who had it sitting around and just wanted it out of his shed. I don't really know anything about these bikes apart from what I've learned in the last week since getting it. She's had a bit of a hard life. You can see it's taken hits here. It's only got 20,000 Ks, but they're a hard 20,000 Ks. So yeah, she needs some love. The bike only has 20,000 Ks on it, but judging by the damage that I've seen all over it, 10,000 of that was upside down or on the side or something. He gave me these panages with it, which I think is pretty cool. Another part that's damaged and I'll probably have to repair, but one of them goes on, the other one is missing a clip. There's a few things I've already done to it. For example, the battery was completely shagged, so I've replaced that with a freshie. As you can see there, high vis yellow. What else have I done? The front brakes, they're still pretty average, but they're not seized anymore. They were seized on. The indicators weren't flashing. They all seemed to work, but they would just stay on. That was a really strange fix. For some reason, unplugging that plug lead somehow, aftermarket leads can somehow interfere with the indicators apparently. So once I unplugged that and cleaned that connection up, my indicators started working again. So that was probably the weirdest electrical fix I've ever seen in my life. Once I'd installed that battery, it actually started up and ran quite well, apart from stinking out my shed for about 1 hour afterwards. Yeah, it ran quite well. Took it for a ride. It smelled really bad, like fuel, when I started it up. It turns out one of these choke cables was holding the choke on a little bit on one of these carbies. It has twin carbies. So I have readjusted that so the choke comes on only when you put it on. So I'll take you around the bike and show you some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like so much about it, and the things that are going to need repairing on it. So as far as damage goes, these pipes have taken a hit. The seat's worn through in a few spots, you can see. It's been rubbing on the tank as well. This was loose, but I've tightened that up, put some Loctite on it. Just wear and tear from age, I guess. The chrome started to come off on a lot of the bike, on the handlebars. You can see the rust spots. This was held on by tape, which is, I'm sure I can figure something out to fix that up a bit better. These brakes were seized on, so I've actually pulled them apart, cleaned them right up. I ended up putting the same seals back in just to see if they'd work, and so far they have. The brakes aren't great, but that's something that I'll have to probably look into further down the track. You can actually see some of them came out with twin brakes on the front, so that's maybe something I can do, that or upgrade this disc to something a bit bigger because it's quite small. Another scuff mark there. That's actually a dint as well. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that's not meant to go in like that. As you can see, the exhausts aren't quite where they were from factory. It's pushed in a little bit on this side. All the switches and lights seem to work. That's blinking fast because this globe is a mismatched globe compared to the other ones. I've already taken that apart, so that's going to need to get replaced. But the headlight, you can turn it on and off with the key. She likes a bit of choke. Yeah, anyway, you get the idea. One thing I do find interesting is the engine design. Those cylinders just coming straight out the side like that. Right down near the ground. Not a V formation like you would sort of expect. But something that does is, that I've found not so good, your foot area is kind of fouled up by the carby there. And you really notice it when you try and go for the rear brake. Just gets in the way. It's a weird spot for it to be. Whether I might be able to modify that brake lever to bring it into more of an accessible position, or yeah, they've actually got an airbox standard here, but someone's pulled that out and just put these pod filters on, which yeah, impedes on your foot space even more. But yeah, I don't know, that's something I'm gonna have to look into. Yeah, maybe modifying or learn to live with it, I don't know. I've taken the bowls out of the carbies and cleaned them up. They're nice and easy too. Like, you can just get to it by undoing that and your bowl just comes away, which is kind of nice. I like the accessibility of it. Everything's right here, you can just reach it. One thing I really like about this bike is how easy it sort of is to work on. You can see everything there. It's quite basic with its electronics. It's got cool things like this lever here, you can turn that and it takes all the pressure off your suspension, which is handy for putting your panniers on because that bolt's in behind that, so it's not trying to load up on your bolt. Yeah, it seems like the sort of motor that you could fix nearly anything on with a 10mm and a 13mm spanner. So they're a shaft drive, which I have had nothing at all to do with. The first thing I did notice though was I'm probably not going to be able to put tyres on it that are much bigger than this, because you can see in there, there's actually a cutout for the tyre in the shaft. So there's only about 15mm to play with in there by the look of it. The crankshaft actually goes in line with the bike rather than across it, like a traditional, like the more common sort of thing you'd see, like on this MT here. It's 3 cylinders that go in a row and everything's sort of spinning with the bike. Whereas with this, the centrifugal force could actually sort of try and lean the bike in a direction when you accelerate, because everything's spinning 90 degrees out from what you'd expect, I suppose, from a bike. And the kickstarter on the left side, that's another interesting thing. This is the clutch as well. So it's almost like the same design as a car. It has a flywheel and a clutch that sort of pulls off that, to my understanding. Those pots are offset from each other as well. This one's closer to the peg, which is why it fouls up on the brake lever, or your foot does anyway. Look how easy it is to pull off the tank. So, once I've disconnected the fuel, there's a hoop down here. And your whole tank's off, just like that. Which then gives you access to all your electrics. This is the blinker relay that I was having trouble with. And even this. You can actually pull these apart and replace components within the relay if you want to. It's a little bit fiddly, but be careful, you can just pull it apart. If you really wanted to, you could just get your soldering iron out and replace that capacitor or the resistors or whatever that thing is with 8 legs on it. But this one works fine since I pulled the leads off. Yeah, again, don't ask me how that worked. It was a weird fix. Click. So as far as things go that I like about the bike, I like that it's a carby, no fuel injection, just simple, no computers or anything. That has a certain appeal to me. I like that it's air cooled, again for the simplicity, no radiators, no coolant. Yeah, just nice and simple, air cooled. The whole bike itself is just really basic, and to me that means it's going to be quite easy to repair or modify if I want. Yeah, there's not really anything hidden, you can see everything. I think it'll be quite easy to sort of manufacture custom parts or even adapt parts from other bikes onto it if you didn't want to try and find parts for a 1984 BMW R65. I like that sort of electric start. I'm not sure how common that is for bikes of this vintage, as most of the bikes I was looking at leading up to this were custom built, and a lot of them were just kickstart. Now, this one's probably open to interpretation. I like that it's only 650, so I can ride this bike and really wring its neck. I'm not going to be sitting on like 250 kilometers an hour or something. I feel like you can enjoy it a little bit more without pushing the limits and maybe getting yourself in trouble with the law or injuries or everything that goes along with riding a sports bike. The actual look of the motor itself has an appeal to me. I don't know, it looks interesting. It's almost a feature of the bike. Yeah, it's just unique. The bike has a boot. Look at that. You can put your tools in there if you want. Anything you might need for the road. Beautiful. And that's part of the reason why I'm a bit reluctant to start chopping it up, because you sort of start to lose cool little features like that the manufacturers put in. But we'll see. The riding position. So I'm not sure if it's just because of these bars that are on it. Don't know if they're standard or if they've been put on, but the riding position's quite upright and comfortable. And if I was to get this seat reupholstered and refoamed, I think it'd make quite a nice combination for touring or doing sort of bigger kilometres without fatiguing yourself. Things I don't like about it so much. The shaft drive, I'm not really sold on that. I feel like it limits you to what you can do with the wheels there, so I can't really put on spoked wheels if I wanted to. I just have to use that, and I think I mentioned earlier with the tyre, I can't put a bigger tyre on there, or not much bigger anyway, because the shaft actually gets in the way. The tyre will be rolling on the shaft. So it's different, and I've heard they're quite good and low maintenance, but I just feel a bit locked in with that wheel setup, which in turn, I suppose locks me in with the front if I want to keep it all looking matching. I don't like the brakes. I don't like the rear brakes because of the position of the actual pedal itself in relation to the carby. Your foot fails up on it. And I don't like the front brakes because, yeah, they just seem, they are the Brembo ones, so I think they're a bit better than the earlier models, but yeah, I don't know, maybe some new pads will sort that out, but the brakes to me just feel a little bit, yeah, I could do more. The positioning of the carbies to me doesn't make sense. I think it would have made a lot more sense to run them up here perhaps. I'm not sure, I'm not a mechanic, I don't know why they didn't do that, but that's something I might look into. Relocating the carbies might be more trouble than it's worth, but it frees up that foot pad, the foot peg. Could be worth looking into. A couple of things I wouldn't mind changing. The dashboard, I'd like to integrate these gauges all work fine, so it'd be nice to keep those gauges, but maybe, I don't know, give it more of a naked feel, get rid of that surround, or make up another surround that's a bit more minimal. This one's pretty obvious. I'd probably switch these out for LEDs, or probably everything for LEDs. These look a little bit dated. I mean, while they work fine, I'll probably run them just to get the roadworthy certificate, but yeah, LEDs would really spruce it up a lot, I think. Now, this one I'll probably decide after a few longer rides. The suspension. I like that you can just take the load off it with that lever, but yeah, I can see that I can imagine that these aren't going to be too great for longer distances on the road. And the front, I mean, yeah, doesn't look like there's anything special going on there. It's just an old conventional looking shop. I have heard of people putting new inserts, like all the springs and valves that are in here, replacing them to make them perform a little better. So that's maybe something I'll look into again after I've ridden it for a while to see if it needs to be done. Front brakes, probably the rear brake pedal, but front brakes actually the disc larger. I just want a bigger disc. I want more stopping power, but I'll probably try a few different things to get the performance of this setup before I go down that path. But you want to be able to stop. And apart from that, at this stage, I'll just say aesthetics. So yeah, just things like paint. It's pretty rough. The chrome's sort of rusting and peeling off in places. But yeah, the paint's pretty rough. There's a few dings around the bike. The seat, you could use a rear bolster. Yeah, just use a general tidy up. Things like the grips, bars, mirrors maybe. I mean, they look alright, but I will try and retain as much of the original bike as I can as I go through this, I think, at this point. Not too sure about the gearbox. I've taken it for just a short spin around the block, just to make sure everything's functioning right. I noticed I hit a few false neutrals. Hopefully that's not something I'm going to have to pull apart and repair. Hopefully that's just something that I'll get used to as I ride the bike. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you ride a bike like this for its character. You're not trying to squeeze every single bit of performance out of it you can. Generally, probably always going to have some little quirks like that. So that's about all I've got. Just yeah, a few impressions and a bit of a walk around. Maybe if you know of these bikes and you've been looking at them, might have pointed something out that you hadn't thought of, or yeah, hopefully you took something away from this video. If you're watching this, then that means that I actually had the motivation to edit this into a video and upload it onto YouTube. So just give myself a pat on the back for that. Good on you, mate. Alright, I'm out.